following program was recorded at the ARC Annual Industry Forum in Orlando, Florida. I'm pleased to welcome Andy Chatha, President of ARC Advisory Group.
Hello, I'm here today with Greg Bentley, CEO of Bentley Systems. We are going to talk about Bentley's launch of AssetWise platform. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Andy.
Greg, some of our audience, they don't know a lot about Bentley Systems. Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit more about your company and your core set of products and strategies.
Andy, thanks very much. We began our second 25 years of Bentley Systems in 2009. Our mission has and remains the same. We do software for sustaining infrastructure. Infrastructure is everything that gets built. It's how we improve our economy and our environment and so forth. We've grown from 5 brothers, interestingly, to now almost 3,000 folks throughout and everywhere in the world.
Yesterday, you launched the AssetWise platform. What problem are you trying to solve with this platform?
Well, actually, ARC very well defines the challenge and the opportunity we see with AssetWise. Owner-operators of assets repeat a project cycle, if you like, over the course of asset life cycles, and asset lifecycle management is ARC's identification of the opportunity to bring those both together. At Bentley Systems, over our 25 years, we've become a leader in software to support all the engineering and architecture and construction disciplines on the project side for creating and realizing infrastructure assets. The opportunity that we all see is to reuse and deploy that project information and comparable information for existing assets in the service of the operations of infrastructure assets. And AssetWise is our platform to, for these next 25 years, I like to say, improve the return on the investment that owner-operators have already made in not only their infrastructure assets, but information about those infrastructure assets that today are not serving as well as that investment could serve in the course of operations of those assets.
Why do you feel now is a good time to launch this platform?
Well, Andy, it happens that there aren't so many opportunities this large. The information created in project cycles is by and large not maintained, not utilized on the one hand. These are big and important problems. A couple of years ago, our company might have had to explain to the world at large what infrastructure is. And I think we all now recognize that infrastructure is at the cross-section of needing to improve our economy and our standard of living that depends on our productivity on the one hand, that we need to improve our environment at the same time, and that only happens, but it can happen, when engineers use information modeling technology well, so that as we reinvest in physical infrastructure, we take advantage of the digital infrastructure investment, if you like, that our society has made, and that's not only computing, but communications and devices and so forth. And in particular, at this juncture, advances in information technology have made it possible to have rich information models that go well beyond documents or databases or maps, for instance, that are of new types that can be regarded as unstructured unless you understand the applications that created them. An example would be point clouds or 3D PDF models and so forth. These can be created to describe existing plant assets or delivered through the project cycles along with virtual models of various sorts. The inflection we're at in information technology is for such information to describe itself. So it doesn't need to know when it's created how and when it will be advantageously reused in the operations life cycle. And information describing itself sort of began with XML examples, but now there are very much richer and important protocols, an ISO 15926 standard, for instance, for process plants and so forth, that we're well prepared to take advantage of now, so that both newly created project information and existing asset information can be purposed to maintain and better serve the operations life cycle of plant assets. The main reason is it's now feasible and the information exists, the investment's been made by owner-operators in this information. It's all returned now. It's simply to better utilize that information.
In ARC terminology, asset-wise platform would come under what we call asset information management systems. And right now, many companies already have platforms or products in this space. Are you trying to fill a niche in this marketplace, or are you? How does this platform, perhaps what are the new things it brings to the marketplace?
Well, interestingly, I don't think it's fill a niche. I think it's take advantage. The asset-wise itself won't create new information or new information formats. It's about maintaining the relationships, the changes, the configuration management, the records management, the knowledge management, the dependencies among information sets that already exist. Now, some of those will have been created by Bentley's engineering applications, for instance, or maintained through our project-wise project information management servers. But a lot of it is data sets that are instantiated by existing enterprise applications that don't have a relationship to the underlying asset descriptions ultimately created through some project cycle, some capital expenditure that resulted in the asset in the first place. The asset-wise platform can be applied incrementally to describe the relationships and the dependencies among that information to get more value from it. So because we're not talking about creating or instantiating new information, but rather federating it and relating it together, so its consistency will be assured and it can be trusted. It's greater advantage from information that already exists, but is not considered to be of quality to be suitable for the operations rigor for commissioned assets. So we can start by degrees with getting more intelligence from existing information regarding asset information, and we don't need to displace an existing system or enterprise application to do that. We'll serve as a platform the enterprise applications by helping them have better access to asset information which is correct and consistent in relation to the as-operated asset models.
Yesterday, you also announced 2 acquisitions. Could you tell us a little bit more about those acquisitions and perhaps, what is the relationship? Do they actually, bring some capabilities for asset-wise platform?
Well, we had determined that the importance and opportunity in asset lifecycle management was sufficient that we would build this platform in our own right. It's delightful to instead announce that we've accelerated asset-wise because it's anchored by 2 important new acquisitions that we've announced here at the ARC conference. And in particular, I might say that we had already begun at Bentley for process plants in particular that are characterized from an operations standpoint by tagged components. We've had a service for handover there. It turns out that the remainder of infrastructure assets, or the bulk of those, which might be road and rail and transit and utilities and water networks and drainage networks, what they all have in common is that they are linear networks, and there are information models associated with their operations that have to do with relating the assets to a linear network, the supporting assets for road or rail or transit or pipeline, whatever, and then the incidents that occur in the operation cycle. That's the first acquisition we've announced here, the acquisition of Exor Corporation of the UK. About 100 colleagues joining Bentley, whom have become the virtuoso leaders in linear networked infrastructure asset management. So along with our existing proficiency with tag component data for process plants, now for linear networks, we pretty well handle the information model types that describe the value of most infrastructure assets. The second acquisition, even more important perhaps, is of Enterprise Informatics, whose EB Insight platform provides for rigorous change and configuration management and records management across all classes of asset information it doesn't create new data, but relates and maintains the relationships, not the what, if you like, of the data, but the why and how and dependencies and what would change or be impacted or depend upon other information across that complexity set, which represents the challenge for asset lifecycle management. So those combinations provide AssetWise with a lot of substance and value to offer already for owner-operators, and it's a pleasure to have announced all that here at the ARC conference.
As you build this platform, are we likely to see more acquisitions, or how are you planning to add more functionality to this platform?
Well, there's a lot to be gained by integrating the capabilities, which is not as challenging as it sounds, because all of these services are based on a federation model of relating data together, and that can simply be expanded and made more complete, and we'll be at that for some while. There are not other acquisitions targeted, although it's conceivable. Bentley has some number of operations applications already, and they will now be engineered to be supported by the AssetWise platform. But we don't intend to displace existing enterprise applications. The enterprise applications in an owner's environment depend on a level of transactional integrity and rigor that are different from the requirements on the project lifecycle side. And the project cycle, you want dynamic collaboration, you want time to market to be quickly, you want work packages to be flowing in all directions on the part of a distributed project team. Once the assets are commissioned, you have an enterprise level of rigor and auditability that by rights need to be applied to those changes. As an example, in the nuclear industry, EB is the mainstay for operating nuclear plants, and especially in the U.S., where regulatory compliance and governance is of the very essence. And bringing that transactional integrity to the information modeling is what AssetWise will have accomplished with these acquisitions. And I think we've got a pretty complete start now. Our teams of several hundred developers will now be working to realize those benefits in a coherent way, but in the meantime, our tag component servers and services and our dependency management services and the XOR linear networking asset management services and the EB services are available to the market through Bentley, and we're very glad to be everywhere in the world. You know, the slight majority of our revenues already are from owner-operators, and all the value we create and that the engineering contractors create is for the owner-operators, and we're glad to be able to help increase that return on their investment over the operations life cycle. Don't think it needs more acquisitions.
Greg, that's very interesting. Thank you very much for being with us today. I have been speaking with Greg Bentley, President, CEO of Bentley Systems. Thank you for watching.